You've spent your entire life trying to be light. Still, everything hurts. Therapists taught you to forgive. Spirituality taught you to let go. Capitalism taught you to smile. And yet none of those voices could silence what's been screaming from your basement. What if the part of you you've rejected the most holds the very key to your freedom? You weren't weak. You were trained to run. Since childhood, you were told anger is ugly, envy is a sin, fear must be shut down with fake peace. So you buried your instincts. You swallowed the scream. You wore the mask. And the more you ran from your shadow, the bigger it grew behind you. Light without contrast becomes blindness. You became a social product, optimized, clean, and emotionally censored. A collage of safe words, spiritual posts, forced gratitude, and achievement trauma. But behind this performance lies a suffocated child, a silenced teenager, an adult who forgot how to feel. That forgotten part, your shadow, is calling for you now. We live in the age of toxic light, coaching-fueled optimism, high-performance mindfulness, algorithm-shaped faith. But the soul doesn't heal through positivity. The soul heals through truth. And the truth is dark. I speak to you as someone who walked through this hell and returned. My shadow saved me when all the light betrayed me, and maybe in the next 7 minutes yours can save you too. Not as a miracle, Raum, but as a brutal homecoming to who you were before you were edited. What you try to forget keeps owning you in silence. You were conditioned to betray your own soul. It started early. Approval when you were quiet, punishment when you felt too much. Crying was too much. Questioning was disrespect. Emotional control was called maturity. Vulnerability was called weakness. School trained your instincts. Church demonized your impulses. Family shaped your heart with the fear of abandonment. So you adapted, survived. You didn't grow. You shrank to fit. The result wasn't just emotional. It was systemic. A body that swallows screams. A mind that censors itself. A heart that loves from a place of fear. Your rational choices? Just echoes of everything you were taught to suppress. As Gabor Mate reveals, your functional adult self may be nothing but a performance, built to never disappoint anyone except yourself. Your anxiety, your compulsions, your quiet misery, they're not flaws, they're alarms, warning signs from your shadow self that something sacred is still buried inside you and bleeding. But the system doesn't want you to hear that. Because a whole person is dangerous, a whole person doesn't need a product to feel alive. A whole person doesn't obey emotional marketing. This modern conditioning doesn't use chains, it just convinces you it's all your choice. So you keep freely choosing the same things, scrolling to numb, working to prove, posting to be seen, loving to avoid abandonment. You don't live, you manage yourself. In this management, anything wild, primal, or disruptive is silenced, but your shadow never left. It's behind every self-sabotage, every "I don't know why I did that." Because it knows. It holds the map you've been avoiding. The most elegant trick of your programming? Making you believe you chose it. Making you feel guilty for not being able to escape. But guilt is the perfect prison. It keeps you loyal to a system that keeps you small. And the more you try to heal without touching the shadow, the further you drift from real healing, the kind that requires destruction before rebirth. You've become a divided being. On the outside, the mask. Functional, edited, acceptable. On the inside, a chorus of silenced voices, aborted desires, unnamed screams. This fragmentation isn't failure, it's a survival strategy. When the psyche is punished for feeling too much, it cuts off pieces of itself to remain intact. What wasn't accepted by your tribe was exiled into your unconscious. And that exile became shadow, not as punishment, but as a pact of silence. Because your ego cannot endure shame, it prefers forgetting. But the shadow doesn't forget. It is your hidden body, the double you buried just to belong. Carl Jung called it the repressed part of the psyche the ego refuses to acknowledge. And the more you try to be light, the louder it screams for contrast. The rage you deny shows up as passive aggression. The desire you suppress appears in self-sabotage. The fear you silence cripples your intuition. The shadow acts, even when you think you're in control. Because it's not your enemy. It's your most honest mirror. Inside you are forgotten archetypes. The wild one, the orphan, the saboteur, the wounded mystic. Each carries a memory you never dared to recall. The orphan reminds you that no one ever truly saw you. The saboteur emerges when you get close to anything real. The wounded mystic begs for meaning beyond metrics. And the wild one, that one's too dangerous for the system because it remembers who you were before you were tamed. The problem is, you tried to fix yourself without listening to them. You sought therapy to function, not to awaken. You sought spirituality to numb, not to embody. You polished the prison, made the cage look holy. But the shadow won't be healed through techniques. It demands ritual. It demands dissent. It demands you look into yourself and say, I see you and I won't run. This is the beginning of real healing. Not the elimination of chaos, but the ability to dance with it. Because deep down you already know. The part you fear the most only wants you to come home. You were told freedom meant the ability to choose, and you believed it. But no one told you that when every choice is rooted in avoidance, you're not choosing, you're sedating. Modern life doesn't offer liberty, it offers distraction with a smile. You're not escaping the void, you're leasing it monthly. You scroll, buy, binge, pray, post, all in the name of feeling something. But what you feel isn't wholeness, it's a flicker, a chemical flicker. A shadow of what used to be real desire, real meaning, real presence. And the system loves this, because a numbed soul consumes more. The algorithm doesn't sell you truth. It sells you soothing, calibrated to your wounds, served to you just before the emptiness can speak too loud. The perfect trap is the one you pay to stay inside. This isn't just about tech or capitalism. It's about how your psyche has been hijacked. They studied your brain. They monetized your trauma. They turned dopamine into currency and your nervous system into a subscription model. The self-help industry doesn't want your awakening. It wants your compliance. It packages pain as opportunity, sells it back to you as empowerment, and teaches you to suppress your rage with gratitude and yoga. But healing isn't soft. It's violent. It's the internal rebellion where you stop being a customer of your own suffering. Where you unplug not just from the screen, but from the script. The one that told you to smile when you were dying, to manifest while you were starving, to hustle through your heartbreak. That script has to burn, because beneath it, there's a silence. And inside that silence lives a voice you haven't heard in years. You think you're free because you can scroll endlessly, pick from thousands of life paths, chase endless pleasures. But you're chasing from the same wound, orbiting the same unmet need. Viktor Frankl warned that without meaning, humans will fill the void with pleasure, power, or conformity. And that's exactly what this world offers you, a menu of distractions wrapped as freedom. But none of it satisfies, because satisfaction doesn't live in consumption, it lives in remembering. Remembering who you were before your desires were replaced with marketing. Before your intuition was muted by opinions, before your soul was turned into a demographic. You were never meant to be this numb. You were meant to feel everything, including the pain. Because only pain can point you back to the part of you that refuses to be sold. There comes a moment when escaping your pain becomes more painful than facing it. It's not burnout, it's initiation, not a breakdown, but a sacred collapse. At that threshold, all techniques fall apart. Positive affirmations feel like lies. Coaching becomes noise. Even prayer becomes a ritual of avoidance. And in that silence, a raw truth emerges. The version of yourself you built to survive can no longer carry your soul. The achiever, the peacemaker, the always smiling light worker. They've done their job. They got you here. But they are not who you are. Healing doesn't start when you become better. It begins when you're willing to let die everything you built to be accepted. Reconstruction isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. It's about peeling off every layer of compliance, every polished mask, every forced "I'm fine." You won't find your truth in perfection. You'll find it in the rubble, in the ruins of who you tried to be for others. And down there, in the ash, lives a self that still breathes. Not graceful, not healed, but honest. Florence Scovel Shinn once said, "Fear is just faith inverted." And maybe that's the pivot point. What if all the fear you've been carrying is just sacred energy misdirected? What if your panic, your rage, your grief were never meant to be eliminated, but rewired into truth? The world doesn't need more perfect people. It needs people who have died and returned, with the map. People who stopped seeking approval and started listening to the wilderness inside. That wild voice doesn't want you to be palatable. It wants you to be whole. And wholeness isn't aesthetic. It's chaotic, sacred, untamed. To become that, you must first allow the old self to burn. The self who performed spirituality, who smiled through trauma, who chased validation in disguise. Let that self go. Mourn them, thank them, then bury them. Because beyond that funeral is where your real life begins. And the shadow, the one you feared, isn't behind you anymore. It's beside you. It's your guide now. This is where it ends. Or maybe, finally begins. You've spent a lifetime running from the dark, but the dark was never trying to devour you. It was trying to deliver you. Every fear, every loop, every sabotage was just the shadow saying, "You left me behind, and I still hold your name." You weren't cursed. You were being called. And now, you've heard it. Not with your ears, with your bones. The part of you you exiled has returned, and you are no longer just light, you are whole. Light and dark, wound and weapon, ache and altar. Accepting your shadow doesn't mean surrendering to chaos. It means acknowledging the force that has quietly shaped your path. The suppressed rage, the silenced desire, the forbidden hunger, all form a psychic architecture that drives you from within. Real awakening doesn't come from lighting a candle. It comes from meeting what the light tried to deny. The map of occult reprogramming is not an escape. It's a guided descent, a ritual path into the unconscious blueprints that still control your life. A way to reclaim the self you abandoned for the illusion of control. This isn't healing as performance, this is healing as resurrection. The quiet kind. The kind that doesn't need to be posted. The kind you feel alone at 2 a.m. when something old inside you stops begging to be seen and starts simply being. You are no longer who you pretended to be. You are who survived pretending. So close your eyes now. Take one breath and whisper the words like a vow to yourself. I return to me, even afraid, even scarred. I return whole. Comment below. I return to me, even afraid, even scarred. I return whole. Share this with someone still trapped in the beautiful lie. And if you're ready to keep breaking chains, subscribe now. The shadow never wanted to haunt you, it only wanted to hand you the key.